Good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here with me and Shining 3D in this kind invitation that they did to me to show some of my experience. Today I'm going to speak about facially driven treatments. It's been uh, a long time since it has been in use, this technology, but in the last few months, it has been a very hot topic. And I would like to share with you my experience in the use of this technology. And maybe I'm gonna give some tips and tricks that might be useful when you try to see if this fits to your daily practice or not. And also tricks on how to work with this technology because you'll see that there might be some confusion when trying to get this. I am a dentist that obtained his degree at the Catholic University of Uruguay. Then I moved into Chile, where I studied implant dentistry. And actually, I'm working at the University of Chile as professor, and I'm in charge of the third year of the implantology program at the same university. Uh, the main things that I will try to cover in this lecture are why should we use this technology, different ways in which we can digitize our patients, why should we choose MetiSmile, the ease of use of MetiSmile, and then we will undergo through some conclusions. So, why should we use this? And we cannot forget Professor Brannemark and his statement. As we all know, a preoperative planning is the key for success. And we've been doing this in the analog world, and now we have to transfer this to the digital world. And thanks to the digital world, things have become easier for clinicians and technicians because we can speak almost in the same language, we can transfer data extremely fast, and we can do and redo things if we consider that they aren't correct, and there's no need to have our patients sitting beside us. That's extremely useful, and that's thanks to digital technology. For example, here in this slide, we can see the same treatment, but in different periods. In the left picture, we can see a treatment that is under the umbrella of the philosophy that was born in the early 20s, and that's a surgically driven philosophy. Clinicians opened and placed implants where they found bone. Nowadays, we do not do that. We take CBCTs, we do all our virtual plannings, and we place implants where we really need those implants because nowadays our treatments are prosthetically driven treatments. And that has been a great improvement thanks to technology. But we still have a gap between these two treatments that are exactly the same, but with a change in their philosophy. As Dawson stated many decades ago, professionals dedicated almost 90% of their time to the execution of treatments and only 10% to the planning. And then what happened was that many failures came And those failures weren't because of problems with the treatments, with what clinicians did during the treatment. That was due to problems in the planning. So nowadays, with digital tools, we are being able to do our plannings, our plannings in a better way, and we can predict what's gonna happen because we have knowledge and we have all the tools to predict all these kind of things. Searching in PubMed, I found this research from Christian Kochman, where he states and he shows different steps from the moment that we get our patient into the dental chair and what happens when we take out of our dental chair that patient. So here we have stated different moments of these treatments. And as you can see, digital technology has been playing a big role in the last decade. And thanks to the improvements that we have had in the devices that different manufacturers have been giving us, this is becoming more and more common, and patients now are being or getting used to be treated with this kind of devices. In that research that I have shown you now, there are three pillars. These are the first two basic pillars that are a CBCT and intraoral digitation. And I think that almost all of us are familiar with this. For example, in surgery or now in prosthetics, we need to take a CBCT because we need to check different things. And then we also need to digitize the intraoral anatomy of our patients and merge all that data to get more exact results. And the last pillar, but not the less important, is facial scanning that has been uh, added to our workflows in a very nice way in the last few years. We can do facial scans with photogrammetry, face scanners, intraoral scanners. We will get more or less the same result, but obviously some ways are going to be easier than others. So this is what I would like to show you today. We all know this digital smile design. It has been very well established by Christian Kochman, and I think that we all know this. We almost all worked with these pictures. We've done our digital measurements in our keynote, PowerPoints, and we've been doing this for about the last 10 or 11 years. So it has been a very nice baseline, this. And as Dr. Kochman describes, we've been undergoing through different generations of these kind of treatments. We started obviously with the first generation, where we used analog drawing over images. It was a bit faulty, but it worked. It gave us an idea. And then we've been evolving with technology. So we've been adopting technology to our daily practice. And nowadays we are in the sixth generation, and that's the 4D concept. We are getting movements into our 3D scans, and that's awesome because we don't have the need, or we don't need to have our patient sitting beside us and checking our mock-ups in the patient. we can do almost everything virtually and then just print it, try it, and if we have to make adjustments, they are going to be extremely little. So that's been a great improvement. Here we have another research that has been done, and that they compared 2D and 3D. And as conclusion, they say that uh, 3D obviously it's a nicer way to work than 2D because it's more the approximation to reality, it's closer. So here we are getting more answers on why we should adopt this kind of technology. If we want to digitize our patients, as I told you, we can do it with photogrammetry, we can do it with mobile apps, intraoral scanners, and facial scanners. We all have, for example, a cell phone, and we can take pictures in different from different sites, and then with some softwares we can match those pictures, and they are going to generate us a 3D mesh of that patient. That's photogrammetry. It's easy to do, but the main problem that we get with this kind of technology is that we don't get a mesh that it's even. We get uneven meshes. And that's a problem because when we're trying to work in different softwares, these kind of mesh or polygons are going to get or give us faulty results. And so we can use this, but it's not what we want to get because it's gonna make us work more in the post-processing of all this data. So it's a nice way maybe to start and know the 3D world. Then we can get mobile apps. For example, one very well known that it's not more available was Belus. We use that with our front camera of our cell phones. But the problem with Belus was this, that the depth of field wasn't good enough. And when we tried to match the intraoral scans to this face scan, we didn't get an exact correlation between the intraoral and extraoral, because what we need is this depth of field so that when we make our mesh to mesh merging, we get a nice result. So what did researchers do in these cases, in these kind of cases, with this kind of devices? They started making these devices like the one that you are looking here in the screen, so that they could correlate the intraoral scannings, the position of the maxillary, and the facial scans. It was a very big puzzle where many pieces had to be arranged, and this is in the way that we worked in these cases. We had to scan part of the face of the patient with that device inside his mouth. Then we had to scan that device so that we could get the occlusal faces of our tooth. After scanning that, we scanned the intraoral anatomy with our intraoral scanners, or we took some impressions and then digitized those impressions. And after all that, what we did was that we merged that with the facial scan. This is a nice way to work. Maybe it might take a lot of time to the clinician, but when we wanted to work with the virtual patient, this was the way to do it. For example, in this case that I'm showing now in the screen, it's a completely edentulous patient, and I worked in this case in exactly the same way that I showed you in the past slide. So here I had to scan the face. Here I also had to scan part of the face with my intraoral scanner, then scan the device that had the occlusal faces of that prosthesis so that I could match all that in the 3D space and do my job. But I think and I believe that this is not what all of you want. It's difficult. It takes time. It's time consuming this. So we can do things in another way. But before showing you the other way, I have to tell you that you can also make your facial scans with your intraoral scanner. It's gonna take you a lot of time. You have to put markers in the face of the patient so that you can get a good scan. But believe me that it's not gonna be the best way that you can do this. So we're going to go and move into facial scanners. And here it's where things have started to become interesting. Yes, a facial scanner works in a similar way on how an intraoral or a lab scanner work. They emit a structured light. Many of them emit a structured light. Uh, Others emit a laser. And MetiSmile, that is one that you are looking here in the screen, it's, I think, in my opinion, that it's brilliant because, first of all, it has three cameras for data acquisition. They are black and white cameras. It has one HD texture camera that is gonna give us the color, and it has an infrared projector. This is the great part of this device because patients don't even know when you're scanning their face because they don't see any light. And that's great because patients keep their eyes open. And other devices that do the same emit a white or blue light, a structured light, so they build the mesh with that structured light. And that's a big problem because patients feel very uncomfortable with that light and they tend to close the eyes. So we cannot get all the data that we need. So that's why I think that MetiSmile has made a great move with this projector. The other thing is that MetiSmile gives us a very nice mesh. It's an even mesh, so it's very easy to work with it in different CAD softwares. And this is great because as we get an even mesh and we have all those cameras that I showed you, we will get a very nice depth of field and we will get a mesh that is going to be in HD. So when we make or we try to merge our intraoral scans onto that facial scan, as you can see in this picture, we are going to get something that is going to be extremely precise. So here is the nice part of this. I just have to take my intraoral scan, then my face scan, and I don't need any of those devices that I have shown you in the past slides. So I think that here it's where we can get the best of this face scan. And the nice part is that after doing this, we export all the OBJ or STL or PLY files, and they are going to come all merged onto the other software, the third-party software. For example, if we are working on Exocad, we are going to get the face the face with the intraoral scans merged, and we are not going to get onto that problem in the third-party software. That's a good point, at least for me. And I think that for clinicians too, because it's not going to be taking too much time. Here in this video, we can see what I'm telling you. I'm scanning that patient. I have already scanned her intraoral anatomy with my Shining RR3. And after doing that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to merge that. As you can see, it's extremely simple, fast, precise, and with the software, we are being able to scan the patient in different positions, so we don't have to create new orders. In just one order, you can scan the face of the patient, smiling, serious, with the cheek retractors. You can see what's best for you. And we are going to get this, the relation of our maxillary to that with that face. And as you can see, we have or we can jump onto the third-party software and start working with our design, or the technician can do this for us. So after speaking about these three pillars, I'm gonna show you a real case. This patient came to change the upper bridge. Now I'm working in the lower one, but he wanted to start with the upper bridge. What I did was very simple. I scanned his face. I did everything with shining environment. And as you can see in the back of this slide, this scanner gives us a facial report. So after we scan, we can get a report and know if we have to open or close the bite of the vertical dimension of this patient, or the patient that you're working with. So we're going to start getting more and more data so that we can do more precise our work. After making the designs, I obviously had to make some surgeries to this patient. I'm not going to show this because it's not the uh, for what we are here. And after I did the surgery, I did an immediate load. I had already done my design of this provisional, and after doing this, I printed a provisional. I installed that provisional, and after the healing period passed, I took a new intraoral impression. I matched that intraoral impression with the previous design that I had. I made some slight changes to the design that I previously did, because obviously the anatomy of the gingiva had changed. And after all that, I could check if everything was fine with the intraoral scans that I did and the facial scans that I did to that patient. And the greatest part of this is that I could do this alone in my house, and then just send this to my local lab so that they could mill the structures for me. Here I have my titanium bars that was last year sintered, and I have my zirconia teeth that were obviously milled. And then there in the lower part, you can see how this is looking after the installation was done. Here you can see the patient that has a natural smile for me, and this was all done in a digital workflow. And the patient is saying that it was very strange for him that everything was done under this workflow, that he couldn't imagine that this was being able to be done nowadays. So, to conclude this, I think that we have increased accuracy by being able to merge extraoral scans with intraoral scans, and obviously, in some cases, merge the CBCT to all this data so that we can get a better result. We reduce chair time, so it's great because we don't need to have the patient sitting beside us while we are working. We just take all this data from him and send it to the local lab, or who wants can work by its own with all this. And for patients, it's nice this because we can educate them. When they see what we have to do and why we have to do all this, they really understand. And it's a game changer for us because they understand the magnitude of what we have to do, and they understand maybe in some cases why they are in the way that they are now, and why we should do the things that we have to do to get a good result and grant them a good long-term result. So this is all what I have to say to you. Thank you very much for your attention. And now, well, if anyone has questions, I will be glad to hear them and answer them. Thank you very much.